Imagine going to bed one night in the greatest city on earth. Your city has walls so thick, chariots can race across the top of them. Your city has been standing for over 1,000 years. You have the most powerful army in the world. And your king is throwing a party. Now imagine waking up the next morning and everything is gone. Not the buildings, not the people, the empire. This is the story of Babylon, and the single night it all fell apart. To understand what happened on that night in 539 BC, you have to understand just how incredible Babylon actually was. Picture this. You're standing at the gates of the greatest city the ancient world had ever seen. The walls stretch so high they seem to touch the sky. Massive towers loom over a city buzzing with merchants, priests, soldiers, and scholars. In the center, a ziggurat, a stepped pyramid temple, rises like a staircase to the heavens. Gardens bloom on terraced levels so lush that people thousands of miles away would tell legends about them for centuries. This was Babylon, capital of the Neo-Babylonian Empire, a city of around 200,000 people, at a time when most settlements could barely claim a few thousand. It was the New York City of the ancient world, loud, crowded, powerful, and seemingly untouchable. And for decades, it was untouchable. But every empire has a weakness, and Babylon's weakness wasn't its walls. It was its king. His name was Belshazzar, and on the night history would remember forever, he was doing the last thing a king probably should be doing when an enemy army is camped outside his city. He was throwing a banquet. Not just any dinner party, a massive royal feast. Hundreds of nobles, wine flowing like rivers, music filling the palace halls. The Bible's book of Daniel describes Belshazzar ordering servants to bring out the sacred golden cups, the ones his father Nebuchadnezzar had stolen from the temple in Jerusalem decades earlier. He was drinking from holy vessels and toasting his false gods. He felt safe. The walls of Babylon were considered unbreakable. The city had supplies to last years. What could possibly go wrong? A lot, as it turns out. Outside those famous walls, a man named Cyrus the Great was thinking very, very carefully. Cyrus was the king of Persia, a rising empire to the east that had been swallowing kingdoms one by one like a wave crossing the ancient world. He had already conquered the Medes, the Lydians, and dozens of other peoples. But Babylon was the prize, the crown jewel, the city that would announce to the entire world that Persia had truly arrived. The problem was those walls. Attacking them directly would be a nightmare. The walls were double-layered, some historians say, stretching nearly 60 miles around the city. The Euphrates River ran directly through Babylon, providing a constant source of fresh water and food from boats. An army could sit outside for years, and Babylon could just wait them out. Cyrus needed another way in, and he found it not through brute force, but through pure, brilliant strategy: the Euphrates River. The very river that fed Babylon and kept it alive would become its downfall. Cyrus and his engineers got to work. His army began diverting the river, building canals and channels upstream, slowly redirecting the flow of water away from Babylon. It took time. It took patience. But Cyrus was playing a long game. And when the water level in the riverbed that ran through the city dropped low enough, Persian soldiers waded in, under the cover of darkness, through the shallow river channel, right under the walls of the greatest city on earth. Here's the part that makes your jaw drop. The gates along the river, they were left unlocked, or at the very least, unguarded, because Belshazzar's people were at a party, because nobody believed this was actually happening, because Babylon had never fallen before, so why would it fall tonight? The Persians slipped in like shadows. By the time anyone inside realized what was happening, it was over. Ancient sources, Greek historians, Babylonian tablets, even the Hebrew Bible, all tell versions of the same story. The city barely fought. Some accounts say the population surrendered peacefully, even welcomed Cyrus. That's not as crazy as it sounds. Belshazzar wasn't exactly a beloved king. He had raised taxes, ignored the priests, and disrespected the local gods. The people of Babylon had no great loyalty to a king who treated them like background characters in his own story. Cyrus, meanwhile, had spent months doing something unusual for a conqueror. He had been sending messages to the people inside Babylon, promising them peace, promising to respect their religion, promising that he wasn't coming to destroy. He was coming to liberate. It was genius. Part military campaign, part public relations masterclass. When Cyrus walked through the gates of Babylon, he didn't come in with fire and swords raised. He came in humbly. He prayed at the temples. He returned stolen idols to their rightful cities. He freed prisoners, including the Jewish people who had been held in Babylonian captivity for decades. That's why the Bible calls him the Anointed One. A pagan king praised by Hebrew scripture because he did something almost no conqueror in history had done before. He was merciful. And Belshazzar, the party king, he was killed that night. The exact details are murky. History doesn't always give us clean endings, Freddie. But the king who had been drinking from sacred cups and laughing while an empire crumbled around him did not survive to see the morning. There's actually a phrase that comes from that very night. The book of Daniel says that during the party, a mysterious hand appeared and wrote words on the wall. Mene, mene, tekel, upharsin. Translated loosely, you have been weighed, you have been measured, and you have been found wanting. Even if you don't take the story literally, the writing on the wall is a phrase we still use today, more than 2,500 years later. When we say someone can't see the writing on the wall, we're echoing that night in Babylon. That's how deep this story goes. So what happened after? Babylon didn't disappear overnight. The city kept going, kept trading, kept building, kept existing, but it was never again the center of the world. Under Persian rule, it became just one of many great cities in a vast empire. The flame that had burned there for 1,000 years had been passed on. Cyrus the Great would go on to build the Achaemenid Persian Empire, the largest empire the world had ever seen up to that point, stretching from Greece to India. He is still, to this day, studied in military academies. His cylinder, a clay artifact recording his peaceful conquest of Babylon, is considered one of the earliest declarations of human rights in recorded history. The original is in the British Museum. A replica sits at the United Nations headquarters in New York. And the Jewish people Cyrus freed? They went home. They rebuilt their temple. Their descendants would carry a culture and a faith that would eventually shape half the modern world, all because one king diverted a river on one dark night. The fall of Babylon teaches us something that history repeats over and over again, often in ways we don't expect. The strongest walls in the world mean nothing if you forget to guard the river beneath them. Power doesn't always fall to the strongest army. Sometimes it falls to the most patient one, the most clever one, the one willing to think differently when everyone else is busy celebrating. And sometimes, just sometimes, the greatest empires in history don't go out with a roar. They go out with the sound of a party.